doing Sri Sharda Devi and her divine play, the divine feminine, as it were, in modern lingo. And we're on page 149 of the book, in a section called Holy Mother Leaves Kasipur. And just to bring us up to date, Kasipur is the last place that Thakur spent time before he left the body. And so, as you know, that place is still there. And actually, one of the best meditations I've ever had in my life was in the room where Thakur, or Sri Ramakrishna, left the body, had his Mahasamadhi. And it's a very nicely lit room with a nice hardwood floor. And the bed's actually on the floor. It's a thick mattress bed, but it's on the floor with a canopy. And there's such a silence, such a sweet peace in that room. It's in Kasipur, so there's a big gardens surrounding it. So there's not the noise of the city outside the windows. It's very peaceful. And you've probably been there, but if you ever give time to go there, go sit up in Thakur's room when no one's around. If they've got the gate locked, you can to the room, you can sit outside the gate and see in. That's just as good. But being in the room is quite personal. Quite a wonderful.
I was going to say, they don't allow anybody. The door is locked.
Yeah, well, it's true. I guess
you can only look through the window.
Right. On the Kalpataru day, it's open, but there's so many people, and you can only walk through the room. But you know, if you probably, well, I don't know, I can't say that. Grab one of the monks when you're at Bellarmont visiting, and have them take you to Kasipur, and then you can go into the room. You know, that's the. Oh, here's Regina. Very nice. So. Hello, Regina.
Better late than never.
Yes, no, glad you're here. We're a small band tonight. All right, so Holy Mother leaves Kasipur. I was just telling them a little bit about Kasipur and about it's still there. That's the place where Kalpataru Day happened, you know, where Sri Ramakrishna became the wish-fulfilling tree. And all the householder devotees were there for the day, and he gave them all a spiritual gift. Some of them saw their chosen ideal. Some of them had ecstasy. Some of them just had very deep meditations. But it was interesting. It was none of the monastic guys. He gave it all to the householders that day, which, you know, I think that's a significant point. And so they all had this wonderful ideal. And that happened out front of Kasipur by this tree that's still there now. It's fenced in, but he was under that tree when he blessed everyone.
Is Kasipur a house or a city or
you know, it's I think it's the name of the surrounding area, but it's but it's the house is there, and the house has it's a large property, so it doesn't have a city feel at all, even though there's a lot of city around it. But it's in a walled garden, and so it's very quiet and very set apart, which is why he chose it for his last days. Very restful and very peaceful. So he has passed away just in the last week's class, and so now Holy Mother has finished her duty there, and she's going back to Dakshineshwar. The next day, Ramakrishna's body was cremated at the Kasipur cremation ground, and his ashes were brought to the garden house in a copper urn. The disciples put the urn on the master's bed and began to consider what to do next. In the evening, Holy Mother began to discard her jewelry, following the custom of Hindu widows. As she was about to take off her bangles, Ramakrishna appeared before her, looking as he did before he was stricken with cancer. He took her hand and said, "Am I dead that you're acting like a widow and removing your bangles? I have just moved from one room to another." Holy Mother wore the bangles as long as she lived. And she also wore that colored border sari. So she did not consider herself a widow, even though after Thakur's body had dropped. And here he's actually visiting her incarnate, because he actually takes her hand here. I had missed that detail before. So it wasn't just an apparition, or it wasn't just a vision. He was there physically because he actually took her hand and chose to appear to her in the body in its healthy state. So he didn't look like he had just died of cancer, that he was, probably radiant. So it's quite a wonderful thing here, quite a beautiful thing. Balaram brought Holy Mother a white borderless sari that is worn by Orthodox widows. When he gave the cloth to Golap Ma to hand over to Holy Mother, Golap Ma shuddered at the very sight of it and said, "Good God, who can give her this white cloth?" When Golap Ma went to Holy Mother, she saw that she had torn off the major part of her red borders of her sari, and from that day she always wore a sari with a narrow red border on it. The following day, Golap Ma told the disciples that the Master had appeared to Holy Mother and had forbidden her to remove her bracelets. The news of what he had said to her reassured them, gave them new strength, and consoled their sorrowful hearts. And it should do the same for us, because it's the exact same condition, We think, oh, he died 150 years ago, or however long it's been, but that would not be true. Thakur said that he would stick to his subtle body, be with all of us. And it's very interesting, because when he came as Jesus, he also said the same thing. He said, wherever two or more are gathered in my name, know that there I will be also. And so there's 3 of us here tonight, 4 of us. And so Thakur is here, in subtle body, blessing us. And really, that's why we meditate. That's why we do practice, so that we can purify that inner self and sense that presence, know that presence in a physical way, not just in an imaginary way. As we drop off the ideas of me and mine, and the mind begins to grow silent because of that, that new sense awakens within. That new sense of being, that new sense of identity, the universal. And, we can know, we can rest assured in full comfort in that presence, the presence of the beloved, of Ramakrishna, or Jesus, or Buddha, or as many names as he has come and worn. It doesn't matter which name we are familiar with. It's always the same divine, beloved that we have with us. On the 18th of August, 1886, Holy Mother, accompanied by Golap Ma, Lakshmi, and Latu, paid a visit to Dakshineshwar. They returned to Kasipur the same evening. Difficulties soon arose. How would the Kasipur garden house be maintained? What should be done with the Master's ashes? Narendra and other young disciples wanted to keep the house, but Ram Datta and some other householder disciples who were bearing the expenses disagreed. They decided that Holy Mother should move elsewhere. The young disciples should return to their respective homes, and the Master's ashes would be installed at Ram Datta's Kankurgachi garden house. The young disciples were helpless. They were all so young. They were just young boys. And so these seasoned, older household men, quite authoritative and used to making these kinds of decisions and planning and whatnot, the monks were kind of left helpless. It wasn't their money. They weren't self-determined. And this is the primary difference between the monastic path and the householder path. The monks, what do they have? Where's their authority? What do they have to say? They're kind of outside of society. And that's part of the practice. That's part of the beauty of the path, is that surrender, that acceptance, non-resistance, being open to whatever happens, to be able to absorb that and to find light in it. It's not a disgruntled surrender, like you just don't have any choice. It's a joyful acceptance because you see it as the divine will, the beloved, giving you what you have and putting you through what you're going through. And in a beautiful way, it's true for everyone, not just the monastics, but for all of us, that this notion that you are where you should be, and that everything happening for you is motivated at its root by love, by divine love. And that's one of the secrets to life, I think, to being able to digest whatever comes, is to sit there and insist on the fact that what is occurring is of the most benefit for you. And it allows you to go deep within and to try and find or surrender to that perspective of understanding, to know that your suffering is not without value, to know that your pain is not without hope and not without blessing, and to endure all things, in the name of our beloved and in the company of the beloved. And by doing that, by searching for that perspective, by making that surrender deep within, it puts us in a situation where we have to let go of the body, where we have to let go of the mind. When we say that God is everywhere present and always perfect, it's hard to see because we identify with body and mind. And this moment will never be perfect for a body, as we've said in the past. This moment will never be perfect for a mind, but this moment is always perfect to the divine, to the self within. And so this surrendering to the moment, this surrendering to the conditions and circumstances that we have, will help us to detach from body, because we will only be able to find the truth of that, to see the truth of that, when we learn to take our identity out of the changing mind, out of the world of constant, non-repeating change, and place it within the heart, in the shrine, the absolute within, the absolute unchanging being. And so all of life is meant to help us do that. All the struggles, all the challenges, all the noise, everything is working together, to prepare you for your freedom, to help you find your freedom. Because when we're not in that space of freedom within, we feel the rubbing of clothes that are too tight for us, because this finite world is never comfortable to the infinite self. We're always rubbing up against things and limitations and restrictions. And of course, we convince ourselves to love many of them. But at the end of the day, there's always a nagging discomfort in the material world for the divine self, for the soul. And so that like river rocks, we get smoothed like that. Our rough edges get worn away. In the Old Testament, there's a wonderful scripture that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That it's this constant wrestling with our finite reality that polishes us and ultimately gives us back our freedom, shows us, that we were never bound. Narendra tried to keep Holy Mother at Kasipur for a few days longer so that she could recover somewhat from her grief, but he was unable to do so. So imagine that. She not only had to suffer the loss of her divine ideal, but her very personal divine ideal, her husband, and wasn't even given time to process or to deal with that loss, although she had the vision, not that vision, but she had the presence of Thakur. So she had some help. She wasn't lost in it. But still, that she had to undergo moving and figuring out where she was going to be and at the mercy of who she was going to be at the mercy of. Because nothing was known at this point. It was all forming. As some of the monastic disciples did not want to give all of the master's relics to Ramdatta, they put a large portion of them into another urn so that they could worship the master on their own. As this squabble was going on between the young disciples and the householders, Holy Mother said to Golab Ma with a long sigh, "Such a golden person has left us, and now, Golab, they're quarreling over his ashes." Now, see, where is the understanding? She's divine. She saw Thakur. She knows that he was not the body. He was not those ashes in that urn. And so she really had that perspective, and she was just feeling that sorrow that all of these disciples who had spent so much time with the master were now quarreling, fighting over ashes, as if they were Thakur. But in fact, they were ashes of a material thing that was no longer Thakur after he had his realization. After his realization, he didn't even identify with that body anymore, which is why to him it wasn't such a thing. So it's good to remember that when we go through that suffering. I always try and tell people who lose their loved ones, that loved one always existed within you as the love that you felt for them, the love that was inspired by them. They never were the body. And so when you remember them, don't be thinking about the body. When you remember them, feel the love that arises within you. Feel that inspiration. That is what they are and what they have always been. And in that form, they remain with you always, so that memories don't have to bring about a sorrow of loss. What is the body? Everybody's going to lose it. It's going to drop for everyone. Why pretend that that's who they were? And why pretend that was the thing that brought joy to your life, that in their company? You know? Instead, know that they are the love and exist as the love within you. That is their true nature. That's their true existence. By thou art that, that's what it means. That is pure love. That is pure wisdom and the essence of being. And so when a body drops off, that person remains within as the love you feel. That's the person that they have always been. That's why you cared. That's why you wanted to spend time with them, is because they reminded you of that divinity within, and that was the love that manifested, and that is who they are. And so in that sense, you can be joyful when you remember them, because they still will be manifested just by the thought of them. That love will arise, and that's who they are and have always been. So thinking of them can bring great joy and great happiness. If you think they were the body, then thinking of them brings sorrow and a need for distraction, right? And we get caught in that cycle. So here we're being taught all of these things about the death of the body, that person still exists, and they exist in the pure form, their form of love, their form of wisdom, their form of being. And bodies are not necessary for that. And so when we're faced with death or suffering like that, Mother here is showing us, don't fight over the ashes. That is not where the person is. That's not where they ever existed. They have always been that, pure love, pure being, pure wisdom. The young disciples had no money to buy or rent a house for Holy Mother, so that she could live near the devotees of the Master. But Balaram's home was always open to Holy Mother and to the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He was truly a blessed soul, and all the members of his family were great devotees of the Master. On Saturday, the 21st of August in 1886, Balaram invited Holy Mother to stay in his Calcutta home. Holy Mother must have gone upstairs for one last time, bowed down to the Master's relics that were kept on his bed before she took her bundle of clothes and climbed into the carriage that Balaram had sent for her that evening. As the carriage neared the garden gate, however, the gatekeeper stopped the driver and demanded the unpaid rent. Oh my good Lord. One insult. Oh my goodness. Narendra was terribly embarrassed and somehow had her released. Holy Mother later described her mental condition at this time. The Master's passing away was unbearable for me. I constantly asked myself, such a golden man has left. Why should I have to stay in this world? Life became tasteless, became meaningless for me, and I had no desire to talk to anyone. The Master then appeared to me and said, no, you shouldn't leave the world. Please stay. You have many things to do. Balaram decided to send Holy Mother on a pilgrimage to give her some peace. So you see how Mother came in, didn't let her be so brutally exposed to the conditions of the time, but actually through Balaram blessed Holy Mother. And,
So to recap,
uh-huh.
Ramakrishna dies, she stays here, there, and then she goes on a pilgrimage,
Yes,
like pretty soon after the death.
yes, we're only like a day or so after after Thakur has passed away. She can't stay there anymore because the place is rented and it's overdue. And the householder devotees didn't want to foot the bill because it was quite an expensive place for him to stay, for her to stay. But nothing else had really been arranged. She was welcome at Balaram's house. He has a beautiful. It's still there actually. If you go to Calcutta, you can visit it. And actually, when monks take their sannyas vows at Bellarmine, a very interesting thing happens at Balaram's place. We all go there for the day, and all the monks sit around in chairs in the courtyard, and all of these householder devotees will come in and walk around and bless each of the monks by throwing a few coins or however much money they want. into the laps of each of the monks as they sit around. And the monks just have to sit there and accept these blessings from the devotees. It's quite a beautiful thing. And to know that Balaram had always provided his place for Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and Holy Mother, and that they visited there quite frequently, quite often. And she had a room there that he allowed her, or that he provided for her to stay in. And so that's where she was going to go for a while. But Balaram took great pity and let her do pilgrimage, to find some inner peace, to have time to deal with the loss, the readjustment. Even though that Thakur was still there in subtle body, she wasn't in subtle body. She was in her form. So, yes. All right. So now we're on chapter 10, pilgrimage. So here we are. We're going to go on pilgrimage with Holy Mother after Thakur has gone to the other room, as he said. The chapter starts off with saying, "O Lord, in my meditation, I have attributed form to you who are formless. O teacher of the world, by chanting hymns, I have contradicted your indescribable nature. O Lord, by going on pilgrimage, I have denied your omnipresence. O Lord of the universe, pray, forgive me for these threefold faults." That's a very high prayer, because Thakur teaches that God is both with form and without form, and he gave us freely the choice to approach God as we saw fit. So this is from a very, somebody assuming the highest perspective, to where we're one without a second. And so to forgive us for thinking we had form or that God had form, to forgive us for thinking that God had a particular and wasn't universal.
I think it is from Shankara Maharaj.
Is it? It says source unknown.
Oh, okay.
The book here, but yeah. So it's that notion. It's truth, but it's kind of a severe idea of asking forgiveness for those things when those are things we've been taught by Ramakrishna. So it's coming from a very high perspective. It's coming from a truth, but it's not something that is required of us before we reach that truth. For right now, Mother has given us permission to worship the divine with form or without form, and to see him in an image and in a particular place. And later, when we know better, we could say something like this. But until we have that experience, God is in fact separate from us. As long as we think we're a body, as long as we see objects, God remains other to us. And that's by our choice. That's by our ignorance. It's not by divine whatever. It's not being forced on you. It's what we've decided. And so worshiping God with form is not to imagine God as a form. God actually will appear as that form to you. The imagination is in your separateness, your form. And so as long as you've imagined yourself with form and with limitation, God also will appear in form and limitation to you. When you're willing to let go of your ignorance, the thinking that you're separate and in form, then God also will let go of his separateness and his form, her form. And you'll experience that one without a second. That divine love in unity brings us together. So this is where that little reading comes from. It is said that pilgrims make a place holy through their devotion and worship, japa and meditation, prayers and tears, fasting and austerity, vigils and longing. Pilgrims sanctify the holy places of the world. The birthplace of the divine incarnations, Ramachandra's Ayodhya, Krishna's Mathura, Buddha's Lumbini, Christ's Bethlehem, Muhammad's Mecca, Chaitanya's Navadvip, and Ramakrishna's Kamarpur have all been sanctified, as have been the places associated with their lives. Moreover, the places where saints and monks lived and practiced austerities have become holy. That is why Varanasi, Vrindavan, Hardwar, Rishikesh, Puri, Dwaraka, Madurai, and Rameshwaram, and other holy places in India have attracted pilgrims throughout the ages. To go to Dakshineshwar and to see the temple and to imagine Thakur sitting there worshiping the Divine Mother Kali, and remembering his visions, his experiences, to sit in that inner shrine and worship the image of Kali, and to remember that Thakur saw the walls fall away and that infinite ocean of light with waves of bliss surging through it, to sit in that very place and to feel that. And all these things, that picture that Ramakrishna looked at of Jesus and Mary, and he had that experience of that light, that divine light coming out of that picture and entering into his heart, and knowing that Jesus had become one with him, or he had become one with Jesus, or that they had always been one, but it was manifesting that truth. That picture hangs in the monastery in San Francisco, and every day when I walked by that picture, I would think of that and feel that encouragement. And I remember one time as a brahmachari standing in front of that picture for quite some time, and kind of scolding God in a way. I was actually trying to provoke God to come out of the picture to me too. So I was scolding him for being a bit stingy in our lives, that we get so few touches like that. We get so few, at least I get so few. I assume everybody is the same, but that might not be true. But this notion, that, come on, you should incarnate every year. Every block in every city around the world should have you as an incarnation. I said, maybe then this would be a fair game. But this coming once every few hundred years, what is this? This game is so lopsided. Why don't you show yourself? Why won't you show yourself? And so I remember sitting and thinking that as a brahmachari that day. And of course, part of it was just me trying to trick the divine into manifesting. by being angry, telling him directly my feelings, whether they were right or wrong, like that. Visiting holy places for even a short time cuts one's attachment to home and family, and enhances one's longing for God. Because those places give you a certain feeling of depth that home and family doesn't. Home and family is always body or mind oriented. There's not such thing as home, earth and home, if you don't have attachments. Your home, your shrine is always within you. The body is the temple of the divine spirit. So you'll see that in the Rig Veda. Jesus teaches that same thing. So many different sources of that teaching. And so this notion that we have that these external manifestations are somehow more real is not true. It's not true. That holiness that you feel in Hardwar or Rishikesh or Bellarmont, that holiness is the resonance of that memory, that representational symbol that is Hardwar, that is Varanasi, is Vrindavan. Those are just symbols of what? Symbols of your divine temple within. And all of that holiness that you feel and imagine that's coming from outside of you, that sense of holiness and presence is really coming from within, because it's reverberating in a harmony with the symbols that you're observing through the senses. But you carry the temple. You have the shrine within where the divine exists, where Ramakrishna is. You are the other room that Thakur went to when his form died, when his form fell away. Because what was the form? The form was the separation, the limitation, the restriction. When that went away, Thakur returned to the other room, that universal shrine, that same shrine that is within each one of us. We all worship in the same shrine, regardless of what the outward symbols may be. When we go and sit and worship, we are in the company of every devotee everywhere, ever, within the heart of our own self. So all these external things are just reverberations. They awaken a sense of harmony, but that comes from within. That comes from who you are. And to the degree that you've purified mind, to the degree that you've let go of me and mine like that, to that degree you feel that. So that somebody who's very pure, meaning that they've let go of that sense of me and mine, when they walk into a Dakshineshwar or a Karmarpur, or they feel that very powerfully, very strongly. And so it's available to all of us. You just have to love that more than you love your body, more than you love your mind and your thoughts, your restrictions and limitations. A pilgrim's experience of divine bliss depends upon forgetfulness of the world. You see, that's exactly that. The world only exists because of the idea of me and mine. Me and mine is what creates the universe within you, this universe of symbols, because you've separated yourself from the whole. Holy Mother wanted to forget her raw grief and the pain of separation from Ramakrishna. Toward the end of his life, the Master said to Holy Mother, "You should visit all those places that it was not possible for this," meaning himself, "to visit." 2 weeks after the Master's death, on the 30th of August, 1886, Holy Mother left for pilgrimage, accompanied by Golok Ma, Lakshmi, Nikunja Devi, and his wife, Yogan, Latu, and Kali. The party traveled by train, first stopping at Vaidyanath Dham in Deogar, Jharkhand. In Vaidyanath Dham resides one of the 12 Jyotirlingams of Shiva. In 1868, Ramakrishna visited this holy place. On her pilgrimage in August of 1886, Holy Mother also worshipped the deity there, and the next day the party left for Varanasi. They spent nearly 10 days in Varanasi, where they visited the temples of Vishwanath Shiva, Mother Annapurna, and other important deities. Holy Mother and her companions also climbed the high tower of Beni Madhav to look upon the golden city of Varanasi. One evening, Holy Mother attended the Vesper service of Lord Vishwanath and went into ecstasy inside the temple. She was hardly conscious of the world and had difficulty returning home. Later she said, "It was the Master who brought me home, holding me by the hand." Oh my God. How cool is that? But it's interesting that these places, these external symbols, where the mother goes to these places, that what did it do? It didn't cause her to become, enamored of the place. It didn't cause her to sit there and think about what had happened in those places. What did it do? For a holy person, what do these places do? They make you forget the world, because your understanding of your nature, the temple within, that to be all of these places. It is that original temple within that has made all of these places holy. And the efforts to see that and to experience and to know that temple within is what has created these symbols, these vibrations that lead us to forget the world, forget this separateness, forget this constant sense of duality, this constant sense of separateness, of an enormous other and a tiny little self inside. No, for Holy Mother, for divinely aware people, they completely forget the world in these places, and they enjoy that divine communion. They enjoy that divine friendship, fellowship within the heart of the self. And the beautiful thing about that is that's available to you right now, wherever you're sitting in this moment. You have every shrine in the world. The power of every shrine in the world comes from that holy temple within you right now, within your body, that manifestation of the divine self. And through japa, oh my God, through japa, through practice, dedicated practice, you become aware of that beautiful self, that beautiful inner shrine. And there's a magnet there that pulls you into that space. And in the beginning, we have to fight so hard to remember that it's there, or even to think that it's there. But after some time of practice, for everybody it's a different length of time. But after a bit of practice, when that needle is the needle on the compass, as Thakur says, gets the mud taken off, you get pulled into that shrine. You get pulled into that shrine, and it's the mantra that holds you there. And from there, nothing needs to be done, because nothing is happening. Nothing is changing. You just have to hold that space within. You have to hold that clarity within. And you sit in that shrine, and you can watch the world go by, watch it come and go, and know that when the body drops, you'll still be sitting in that shrine, watching the body drop, because that shrine has nothing to do with the material world other than to contain it, to hold it, to give it meaning, to manifest the divine the divine energy in it. Latu recalled the incident. One evening, we attended the Vesper service at the Vishwanath temple. On the way back to our residence, Mother was with a heavy step, yet walking rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it was difficult to keep up with her. As soon as we reached the house, she lay down on her cot, and she did not speak. Apparently, she got up at midnight and sat to meditate. In the morning, Golap Ma called her again and again, and she could not be roused from meditation. So, Mother, all of this took her inside. So even Thakur walking her home from the Vishwanath temple, holding her by the hand, her experience of the temple, her forgetfulness of the world, she immediately goes to be silent, to be quiet, to be away from all the symbols, and to be with the real. And she had such a deep experience of that it was hard to get to her through the senses. It was hard to wake her up and to bring her back into this reality. So that's mature spiritual life. When all of the symbols take you farther inside, rather than pulling you out like they do now, because we take them to be something in and of themselves, and so distractions pull us out. But for the mature seer, all of these distractions are merely symbols, merely reflections of the one truth, the one reality, the one that we carry deep within the shrine of our very own being, of our very own heart, that which is always there, that place that is your realization you have in you now. And if you could just pull your sense of identity out of mind, out of the world of the changing, and identify yourself from the inside out, you would find the shrine, and you would be established in the unchanging self, and you too would feel this divine communion, this divinity in you that makes holy places holy, that divinity within you that makes holy places feel silent. It's this divinity that creates places of pilgrimage. Another day, Holy Mother and others went to pay their respects to Swami Bhaskarananda, a well-known holy man who remained completely naked as part of his spiritual practices. When he met them, the Swami said, "Don't feel nervous, mothers. You are all manifestations of the Divine Mother of the universe. Why should you be embarrassed? Is it because of my genital organ? Why, it is like one of my fingers." Holy Mother said later, "What a calm, great soul. He always remains naked in winter and summer alike." That's a real seer there. To not assign any special representation to any part of the body, to understand that this is all equally body. There's nothing special. It's mind that creates these ideas. It's mind that holds these divisions. But to the seer who knows himself not to be mind, unaffected, and his renunciation can be pure. There's no exceptions for, I need to wear clothes, or, I need to cover myself. Even Thakur had that kind of renunciation. His cloth would fall off while he was in ecstasy, and he cared nothing about it. No embarrassment, because he understood there was nothing there. It was mind alone that conjures these special things, these ideals. So this is that equanimity. This is that equanimous spirit, so that we can love freely. We can love without attention being drawn to any particulars. It's a universal love that you are. It's the ego that breaks it into little pieces and sends it toward particulars, and a mind that convinces you of difference and your desire to find oneness in the material, which can't be done. And until we find that out, we suffer. We sometimes suffer a great deal. When the Holy Mother was in Varanasi, a nun from Nepal would sometimes visit her. This nun knew various rituals and spiritual practices. She recognized Holy Mother's mental condition and suggested that she practice Panchatapa. And there's a footnote here. Panchatapa is an austerity involving 5 fires The spiritual aspirant sits surrounded by 4 fires under the blazing sun, which is the 5th fire, and repeats the mantra from dawn to dusk. Some years later, in 1893, Holy Mother performed this sadhana at Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house in Belur. And actually, there's a picture here of that balcony where she did her austerity, where on that day, she started 4 fires around her, and then the 5th sun, which we might not feel so much here, but in Calcutta summer, that 5th sun is just as close as those 4 fires. And she sat there in the middle of that heat all day long, without water, without drink, without food, sat there doing japam the entire day. And, austerities like that, the point of them, one of the points of them is to remove your consciousness of body, you take that intensity. It's very much like that woman that I met in Michigan, where she said she used her pain as mantra. She used that pain. Basically, it's another way of saying, or another idea very similar to that, to use that pain to remind yourself you are not this. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind. So austerities are to do that by forcing you into a situation where you really have to pull your awareness out because of your suffering, because of the pain of it. The same thing with those guys that practice by keeping their arms up in the air all the time, or like Heng Shure's vow to never lay down again. You use these austerities, these difficulties, in order to remind you are not that, and to help you, to give you a little bit of a push in the direction of truth, to know that you are a spirit within, and to remember that you can withdraw from them as you mature, as you grow in your strength. You'll be able to fully release the mind from its attachment to body. I think it was Trigunatita, that went to the dentist, and was able to have his filling, his tooth filed or removed without any Novocaine or any pain relievers. He says that he withdrew his mind from the body and was able to transcend. So it's another beautiful teaching here. So Holy Mother doing this Panchatapas in order to understand that she, like Thakur, is not the body, that she's not the mind, and to withdraw from the stress and the sadness that the body-mind feels when Thakur left his body-mind behind and became the universal. And so here she is, preparing herself for the same, deepening her knowledge, deepening her understanding through practice. So it becomes practical. It doesn't become a belief or a philosophy. It becomes experience. It becomes realization. And so that's why we sometimes do some of these austerities. I've known monks, you take cold showers, or that you fast for periods of time. The Ekadashi every month. All of these things are to remove your mind, to separate your mind from your desires and from your attachments, to exercise. It's basically spiritual weightlifting. So you develop that sense of will. You develop that knowledge of what you are inside by flexing your spiritual self a little bit, demanding the mind to withdraw, demanding that you learn a lesson, or that you see clearly in a lesson. This nun also prayed to Holy Mother to send one of her disciples to her during her last moments. Holy Mother never saw the nun again, but the prayer was answered years later. We'll see that in chapter 33, it says. After visiting Varanasi, some of Holy Mother's companions suggested that the party go to Prayag and bathe in the confluence of the Ganges and the Jamuna. Holy Mother wanted to visit Ayodhya next, so instead they all took the train to the birthplace of Ramachandra. They stayed there for one day and visited the important temples and the Saraju River. After bathing in the Saraju River, the mother cooked food and fed her companions. Jogan commented, "What great fortune! Today Mother Sita has fed us in this holy place of Ayodhya." The next day the party left for Vrindavan, On the train, on the way, Holy Mother had a vision of Ramakrishna. She was then wearing the Master's gold amulet on one of her arms. In the train, she lay down with her arm on the windowsill, leaving the amulet visible. The Master suddenly appeared and said to her through the window, "Hello, why are you wearing the amulet in that way? A thief could easily snatch it." Immediately, she got up, removed the amulet from her arm, and put it in a small tin trunk where she kept the Master's photo. She realized that the Master was always with her, always protecting her. She never wore that amulet again. Instead, she worshipped it every day, and later she gave it to Bellarmine for the Master's shrine. The train stopped at Mathura. From there, the pilgrims went to Kalababu's Kunja, or grove in Vrindavan. The estate belonged to Balaram's family. There was a gorgeous mansion in the Krishna shrine in the grove, which was situated on the bank of the Jamuna River. Vrindavan is a holy place, the playground of Krishna's childhood. There, Holy Mother met Yogan Ma, who left Calcutta shortly before the Master's passing away. On seeing her, Holy Mother's grief welled up, and she embraced her, saying, "Oh, Yogan," both wept profusely. At that time, Holy Mother wept often, and one night the Master appeared before her and said, "Why are you crying so much? Where have I gone? It is just a change from one room to another. Isn't that so?" Over time, repeated visions of the Master assuaged the Holy Mother's intense grief. All right, we'll stop there for tonight. But you see, for even somebody of the caliber of Holy Mother, you see how difficult, I mean, life and death, how deeply this runs in us, our experience. So we can take comfort in that and also give ourselves a little bit of a break.
So hard just to even listen to these, just to think about her.
I know. Can you imagine? I mean, we cry for worthless girlfriends and husbands who give us nothing